Beneath the sun-scorched deserts of New Mexico, a hidden world waits in absolute darkness. It is a labyrinth few have ever dared to enter, a place of staggering, alien beauty, and profound, silent danger. This is Lechuguilla Cave, an underground kingdom stretching for miles beneath the Earth's surface. Its passages twist and turn, opening into chambers the size of cathedrals, adorned with crystals that have grown undisturbed for millennia. It is a place that whispers of untold secrets. A frontier, not on some distant planet, but deep within our own. Here, the rules of the world above do not apply. In 1988, a team of experienced cavers descended into this abyss. They were driven by the spirit of discovery, hoping to map passages no human had ever seen. The cavers were ready for the known dangers, but the Earth holds surprises of its own. But their journey would soon take a terrifying turn. It would become a story not of discovery, but of survival. The cave was about to claim one of its own. The central incident happened in an instant, a moment of lost balance on a narrow, slippery ledge. One caver, moving carefully through a difficult passage, suddenly lost his footing. The ground simply disappeared from under him. He plunged into a black void, falling through the darkness, with nothing to grab onto. The drop was over 80 feet, a height equivalent to an 8-story building. His teammates, positioned just moments ahead and behind him, could only watch in horror, as his headlamp beam vanished into the chasm below. The sound of his fall was swallowed by the immense, echoing silence of the cave. Then, there was nothing. They called out his name into the abyss, their voices absorbed by the cold, damp rock. There was no immediate response. In the crushing darkness, their greatest fears began to surface. Then, a faint sound, a moan from the depths, finally broke the silence. He was alive, but trapped. The group's training kicked in, overriding the initial shock. But the sheer drop made a direct descent impossible without specialized equipment they did not have. They were faced with a gut-wrenching decision. The only hope was to get help from the world above. A journey that would take precious, agonizing hours. Long before it was known as a geological marvel, Lechuguilla was just a small, unremarkable pit in the New Mexico desert. For years miners had dug into its entrance, pulling out bat guano for fertilizer. No one suspected what lay beyond the rubble-choked floor. The wind that blew from its depths was the only clue. In 1986, a small group of explorers from Colorado received permission to dig deeper. For days they chipped away at rock and dirt. Then they broke through. They had unlocked a door sealed for millennia. What they found was not just a new passage but an entirely new dimension of the underground world. Vast chandeliers of gypsum, some over 20 feet long, hang from ceilings like frozen lightning. Fields of aragonite bushes, fine needle-like crystals, sprout from the floor in dense white thickets. But perhaps the most iconic formations are the hydromagnesite balloons. They are so fragile that the slightest touch could shatter them. Unlike most caves, Lechuguilla was formed from the bottom up. Sulfuric acid, rising from deep within the earth, dissolved the limestone, creating its massive passages and chambers. This process left behind the gypsum and other exotic minerals that make the cave so famous. Its passages plunge more than 1,600 feet into the earth, making it one of the deepest known caves in the United States. A journey to the deeper sections is a multi-day endeavor. Explorers must set up camps underground. Some passages are so tight, cavers must exhale completely to squeeze through. This is not a place for the claustrophobic or faint of heart. Still, no amount of preparation removes all risk. The cave is untamable. It always has the final say. Two of the strongest cavers would make the grueling journey back to the surface. They packed light, taking only what was essential. The climb out was a desperate, exhausting ordeal. They climbed ropes dangling in black shafts, muscles burning with effort. They navigated slick, muddy slopes, where a single misstep could mean disaster. There was no room for error. Finally, after more than 10 exhausting hours, a faint glimmer of light, the pale, gray light of the world above. They had reached the entrance. Bursting out of the cave entrance, the two cavers were exhausted and running on pure adrenaline. The alarm had to be sounded. An emergency call was placed. A caver was down, deep inside Lechuguilla. They quickly realized the scale of the problem. This was no ordinary rescue. This was Lechuguilla. Calls went out across the country to the small, elite community of cave rescue experts. They dropped everything and began making their way to New Mexico. As darkness fell on the world above, the first wave of rescuers disappeared into the mouth of the cave, beginning their own long journey into the earth. When they finally arrived at the chasm, the scene was grim. Emily had been lying in the cold for over 24 hours. He immediately went to work. This small, illuminated patch of mud became one of the most remote and bizarre hospital rooms in history. They cleaned Emily's wounds, carefully splinted her leg for the journey ahead, and wrapped her in layers of blankets to fight off the deadly chill of the cave. The first and most critical task was to create solid anchor points for the pulley system. The limestone walls of the chasm were unstable. Once the anchors were set, they began constructing the hauling system, a technique known as a Z-rig, which uses mechanical advantage. Emily was carefully packaged into this device known as a sked. This cocoon would be her world for the next day. With everything in place, the haul began. The stretcher began its slow, careful ascent from the abyss. As the physical rescue unfolded, another critical battle was being fought, the battle for communication. They had to run a telephone line from the surface. When the connection was finally made, it was a moment of huge triumph. For the first time, the rescue leaders could get real-time updates from the accident scene. For over 2 days, more than 100 volunteers worked in the cold, wet, muddy darkness of the cave. Rescuers took turns talking to Emily, keeping her spirits up, and reminding her that she was not alone. The successful 80-foot lift was a major victory, but it was just the beginning. Now began the slow, arduous journey through miles of hostile cave passages. In tight squeezes, the stretcher had to be maneuvered with millimeter precision. The cave fought them for every inch. Finally, after more than 2 days of continuous effort, the lead team saw a change in the darkness. The faint distant glow of daylight. The stretcher was carried out of the mouth of the cave and into the bright, warm New Mexico sun. The rescue was over. A quiet cheer went through the crowd. It was a moment of profound collective relief. Emily Mobley was alive. She was immediately transferred to a waiting ambulance, where she would begin the long road to recovery. The 1988 Lechuguilla Cave rescue became a landmark event in underground exploration. It was the deepest and most technical cave rescue ever successfully completed in the United States at the time. The incredible ingenuity and flawless execution set a new standard for what was possible. These became textbook examples studied by cave rescue organizations around the world. Today, Lechuguilla Cave remains one of the planet's most protected and revered natural wonders. Its passages are still being explored, but it is always entered with a deep and profound respect for its power. In the silent depths of the earth, courage, determination, and humanity overcame the impossible. A story of humanity's light shining brightly in the darkest place on earth.